Capital Sports. I'm Alan Moore. This is Capital Sports 2.0. We're doing slightly innovative. We started last night and we got the trial run out of the way and things were okay. So we're going to start by welcoming everybody in from around the world. First, all the way to two men. Andrew Flint, how are you doing?
Well, I'm not doing too badly. Good to be connected with you guys, even if we're not connected to the people closest to us around. But so far, so good.
Nice one, nice one. Go to Double N. Double N, you are just a kind of a shape on the computer. All's good with you?
Yeah, unfortunately, due to the connection, I have to connect to you guys like this, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Good stuff. Alex B has left the building. I can see a basketball. I think it's a self photo. Alex, how are you doing?
Oh, it's been strange couple of weeks, that's for sure.
Well, listen, you should be glad you're not here in Moscow because we're closed down now till the end of April.
Yeah, so are we. It's been closed for quite some time now.
Alrighty, and of course we're going over to Holland to say hello to James Rowe. James, how are you doing?
I'm keeping well, thank you, Alan. Hope everybody is too.
And it's great to see you finally on screen because we're always talking on the phone, but now it's on screen, so we're getting there.
Yeah, nice, a nice touch.
Okay, folks, what are we going to talk about, Steve? Well, very, very simple. There's a lot of questions being asked about footballers and athletes in general who are still getting salaries. And what they're going to do with that. So that the discussion began in earnest today in England. And of course, it's here in Russia as well. And a lot of clubs, of course, are suffering badly. And as Alex B covered a few weeks ago in North America, for example, in the NBA, players are actually giving their salaries or parts of their salaries to support staff and people working in different arenas. We're going to come on to that in just a moment. Wimbledon cancelled for this year. Bad thing, good thing. Well, we'll see what's going to happen because, of course, tennis players have to build up for it and it's just not going to work for them. The Belgian League cancelled. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes so to see is that the way that a lot of leagues are going to go. Of course, there's a slight difference with them, a little bit of nuance. We'll come back to that. The Tajikistan Supercup final or Super Cup, Double N is going to cover that quite soon. And the league solution and basically what's going to happen and sort of an alternative what could happen with leagues. I'm going to start off straight away with Andrew Flint, who took on that project. Andrew, what's your proposal for how we can solve the league solution, especially in Russia?
Well, we broached the subject briefly yesterday. I think the best solution that I've come up with in the last 24 hours involves, there's got to be a concertina effect of fixtures to fit them in, whatever happens. And my proposal would include modelling on the Super League, Rugby League in the UK, where they have a super weekend, a magic weekend, where all the teams play in one stadium over a couple of days. I would make it into a week or even 2 weeks. 2 weeks may be a bit too much, but I would suggest don't rush the start of the season. Say we're already, Russian Premier League yesterday was suspended until the end of May. So at the absolute earliest, we're starting in June. Realistically, we're likely to see probably another suspension because we just simply can't predict. I would suggest we get to August and we've got plenty of time to prepare for this, so players can train accordingly. Have a week where you get 3 rounds of games in Sochi, and perhaps if it works out best, keep it down south. Moscow is far, as you will know, of course, far more heavily affected, and it's a much bigger place with people coming and going, so it's a bigger risk. Have all the teams in Sochi, 3 games over a week. Give them a break, and then do another 3 games a week later. And then suddenly, within 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, you've got 6 fixtures covered. Start with a burst in the summer, and then have some midweek games filtered in every 2 or 3 weeks. Cancel the international breaks in September and October. And the qualifiers that we need for international games can be done at a later stage. And then suddenly, before you know it, you've caught up. I honestly think it's that simple.
Listen, that does make sense, and especially if, for example, as we do in Ireland, for games where you might have 2 or 3 games on the one day. Now they're all, big events. There could be 2 semi-finals on the one day or 2 quarterfinals on the one day in GAA. In Malta, they do the same thing. They would have 2 games in the main stadium on one day, and they would divide out then the receipts. Kind of, there's 4 teams. They divide out by 24% apiece. That does make sense. I'm going to go straight away to Alex. Alex, in terms of like the NBA season right now, we will come back to this fully in a moment. What would be the best result for getting all the games out of the way? Will they play them off like a sort of a March Madness kind of style, or what's going to happen? Do you reckon?
Well, in the NHL, there's already players advocating for having all the teams in the playoffs. So I think that could be a great way to substitute the season in the NBA as well, if they would have every single team in the playoffs except for just half. Well, I mean, sorry, not instead of just half, just have everybody in there.
So it'd be like a kind of a cup knockout kind of thing.
Right. Sort of like one of these tournaments, right? But with everybody this time. It's going to be the first time ever they would do this. So it'd be pretty fun.
Andrew, what about that? Like, kind of like you could have it like break it off into top and bottom, and then play off, in that kind of knockout system. I mean, they do that actually. What Alex mentioned, that in Canada they do that in regional soccer tournaments, where they break off and then play off like that over a very short. So they play quarterfinal, semi-final, all in the space of a week.
Well, I think actually that's a very sensible idea. It's a good compromise. And I possibly would say, as a slight modification, just to satisfy people further, you could say, okay, look, we've got to bridge the gap between that, which I think is actually sensible, because you're still adding a competitive element to the end of a season whilst containing the number of fixtures. Perhaps there will be, okay, Russian Premier League, we have another... was it 8 match days, 9 match days left? Maybe say another 1 super weekend where you get another 3 fixtures in, knowing that the result of this is going to be a playoff system. So ease our way into a playoff system, relegation, promotion. I think that actually could work. Okay.
James, at the moment in Holland, you're like, I don't know what's happened, because your neighbours, it was kind of did 1 game to go till the end of the regular season, when you would actually have a playoffs, and they've cancelled the season, left it as it stands. What could be the solution in Holland?
Well, to give you all an update, the technical director of the Dutch FA, KNVB, Erik Goeda, spoke to the Dutch press yesterday, upon which he said that UEFA have made a plan and submitted a plan to all nations in terms of finishing their season. And the indication that he gave was they were looking at starting games in June and playing games up until the first week of August. And that's the window upon which they would play remaining fixtures. One very interesting caveat about this, when he was pushed on it by the Dutch press, was that contracts expire of players on the 30th of June. And he was asked by the Dutch press, what happens then? What happens for players who are, in the case of Hakim Ziyech, would be out of contract on the 30th of June, has already signed for Chelsea? What would happen then? And the answer came that it's something which would have to be arranged by the club and the player, and also different parties. And I think they're pushing now, and they're going to look at possibly starting the remainder of the Eredivisie season in June. And at the moment here in the Netherlands, we have nearly 15,000 cases of people testing positive, and there's currently nearly 1,400 deaths. So there's new measures in place here in the Netherlands, again up until the end of April, where the measures stay the same. But I think the Dutch FA and the Eredivisie are angling to start the league again in June.
Okay, so starting June, that is fair enough. And again, there's a lot of people who are advocating for that we need to kind of come back to some sort of normality. But as we saw here today in Moscow, President Putin said basically nothing's going on until the end of April. And the Russian Premier League, they're going to be hit by that as well. So that's a good point, James. there is football taking place. We're going to come on to some of it with Andrew Flint in a moment. But first, we're going to go to Double N, because Double N, can you give a preview for the Tajikistan Super Cup final, please?
Sure, Alan. Thank you. So, as it states on the website, the official website of Istiklal, the Battle of Giants, Istiklal versus Giants, is going to happen just in 3 days. So, the main the manager of Istiklal is Vitaly Levchenko, right? So, whom we know from Krylya Sovetov time when he was in Russian Premier League. In Istiklal.
Okay, hold on. I can hear everybody just sniggering in the background. So I know it's a tough one. Okay, go ahead, Double N. We're listening.
All right, so different times, different giants. So yeah, so previous time Istiklal and Khujand met. It was this month on 11th of May, last month. I'm sorry. So Istiklal won 2-0, but they have a huge advantage. So, like, they were champions in this Super Cup for 8 times already, and they've met Khujand for 3 times. Each time they won them, like, at least scoring three goals. So this time they're favorites, like they're clear favorites. But of course, Khujand is gonna look forward to take a revenge from them just in 3 days. As we mentioned yesterday, it's gonna happen on Saturday at 3 p.m. Moscow time, 5 p.m. Tajikistan time. Yeah. So let's see who's gonna get it.
So Istiklal, they're the reigning champions in Tajikistan, as you mentioned. So they basically they're going for big time.
Yep.
Of course, they're based in the capital, Dushanbe. What's like in terms of like you know better the football out in Turkmenistan? What's the standard of football like in Central Asia, and what are the crowds like?
Well, from what I know, like there are not like the natural stance or natural structure is not so strong. Like we cannot even see numbers like KMS, for example, when there are teams coming from other countries. Yeah, there's especially in capital Ashgabat, for example, from in Turkmenistan. So yeah, like those kind of matches, the big ones, they draw attention from people.
No, it's interesting, of course. Like Istiklal, they have I mentioned Levchenko, the good coach. They've got some good players as well on their side, like Viktor Shvezov, who I remember playing down in Fakel Verona. She's also played in the top flight as well with Dinamo. So it's not too bad. Andrew, in terms of like the standard of players and like Levchenko and so on, is Central Asia a place where a lot of teams just players and coaches kind of go to just to sort of to build themselves up, or just to kind of pick up a handy paycheck? Like, I mean, why would they end up out there?
Well, I mean, there is a bit of an overhang of players from Central Asian clubs. Tajikistan, for example, have a player in their national team, Farhad Vasiev, who played for Tyumen. And I mean, you know how much I am wildly biased in favour of Tyumen. And even I have to say, we're not quite the greatest side in the world. Farhad Vasiev struggled in Tyumen's side in the 3rd tier of Russian football. I mean, that gives you a picture. I mean, it is rude, I'm sorry, but Tajikistan football really just is not quite the highest standard. But in the Russian league, there are the best players who do make a living, and it's about as positive as I can be, to be honest. Igor Chedevchenko has Tajik heritage. No, he played for local for many years, but what can I say? It's a step up, and it is where all Tajik players aim to go in the end, if they can, to the Russian league at some level, because the salaries are better and the exposure is better. We've got to remember Russia is the 6th or 7th highest ranked league in UEFA. So it's understandable why. But nevertheless, it is a national cup. So I'll be looking forward to seeing how it turns out on Saturday.
Okay, so we will, I know that I'm actually tuning in on Saturday just for the crack to see what it's like. Before we go to thanks Dublin for that, and before we go to Alex B, I just wanted to sort of preface something that NFL owners, I found this out last week and went in, and we discussed this before many times, that WWE wrestlers or athletes, their insurance policies are extremely bad. And we know that these guys are still competing and performing in North America. And the NFL owners have their own wrestling competition. We'll come back to that in a moment. First, Alex, in terms of basketball, what's happening now at the NBA? And also, can you tell us what's happening as well with the WWE? And is it still going on?
Right. So in the NBA right now, they're just trying to isolate all the players, see who has the virus, see who doesn't. There's been, quite a bit of players like Kevin Durant, like all those guys, like they already have the virus. So right now they're trying to isolate them before they can do anything else. Right now, even this morning, I think the Knicks owner reported to have the virus. So it's still very, very dangerous in the United States. But with the WWE, the big problem is that, again, like WWE, like MMA, like all those boxing, like all those guys get paid when they show up. So if they can't show up, they sort of don't really get paid for all the training and all that sort of like all that other stuff that they do. So now everybody's trying to sort of train at home, stay fit. Like that's what everybody's doing. They can't go to the gyms. So again, but even if they would go to gyms, they wouldn't get paid. So right now, that's sort of like the salary is the big issue here because they don't know who's going to be paying what.
And how, what wrestling promotions are going on at the moment, as well as WWE? Are there other promotions as well going on?
Look, I think that all the major promotions are going to stop operations just altogether pretty soon because the WWE, they see that this isn't really going anywhere. Like they rent out entire arenas to have nobody there. It's like, I don't know if they're losing money, but it's obviously like soon it's going to be too dangerous to even have those wrestlers together because the situation is becoming worse and worse in the United States. Oh. So again, yeah. So honestly, I don't see them continuing what they're doing in the next month, probably. Unless something happens, they develop like a vaccine, like something like that. But until further notice, right?
How bad is it in Canada right now? Just you're in Toronto, so how bad is what are the numbers like over there at the moment for coronavirus?
Well, the numbers aren't too high, but at the same time, our population is smaller than just the amount of people living in California alone. So, right. So we're only 35 million. California is like 40 million, right? So right now we're just trying to isolate everybody. But at the same time, it is going to, it is becoming more effective. But we have been isolated for almost a month now, as you can tell. But yeah. But listen, I'm actually going to take this to dive into sort of my little capital punishment because the other battle of the giants has been athletes and their cabin fever, sort of, because the first one should hit home for many of you. Billy Joe Saunders, British boxer, posted a tutorial on how to beat your wife, pretty much.
What?
As a professional boxer. Right.
Hold on.
He made a video. Right.
Billy Joe Saunders posted a video of how to beat your wife on his social media.
Exactly. Yeah. So as ridiculous as this sounds, he made sort of like this whole tutorial on like how she's coming, like she's breathing that venomous air, and you're trying to stop her from doing that. And it was a long video, and it was very uncomfortable because it was a joke, but at the same time, it was just like you shouldn't be joking about this. So he has apologized. He has pledged 25,000 pounds to the Domestic Abuse Fund. He has been suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control, I believe. So right now, yeah, this might cost him some pretty big fights. And the second one is that John Jones has been arrested again for a DUI.
No.
He fired a gunshot in a park while sitting in his car with a half-empty bottle of tequila. They tried to do a sobriety test on him, and he failed miserably, apparently. So, yeah, there's also that.
I think you've won capital punishment already, Alex. You've won it with both of them.
I work hard. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm with Alex on that. Good. Andrew, okay.
Which one though? Which one?
We'll round it up. What have you got for capital punishment for us today?
The Billy Joe Saunders, that video was going to be it. Honestly, I promise you, that really honestly was it. I couldn't believe my eyes, honestly, when I read it. I thought this was a joke. I had to check the date, and I thought maybe it was an April Fool's. And then, his explanation of it's a joke. It's like, look, come on, you don't have the excuse of somebody misreporting it. You posted the video to social media with the intention of people seeing it. There is absolutely no way on earth anybody could spin that as a joke. I mean, it's so brain dead. It honestly makes me think if he's taken one too many hits to the head. But I can't do any better than that. So that for me has to be the winner.
James, you're listening to that and you're kind of in shock because you avoid this part of our show when we start to beat people up. Do you have a victim or someone to give some capital punishment apart from Billy Joe Saunders?
Okay, well, what I'll do is first and foremost, obviously, I haven't seen the video. I've only heard the stories from both accounts. And the first thing that comes to my head was, is it boredom? Is it boredom as someone at that level? How do they live their life? Are they not fulfilled and they're not happy? That they'll be bored in the case of posting videos like that. In terms of capital punishment, I did have a think about it. I'm going to go right back in time to the 1982 World Cup.
Oh.
And you may know of Harold Schumacher, the German goalkeeper, who poleaxed Patrick Battiston, leaving Battiston with broken ribs, broken teeth, broken everything. And he said it was like he claimed that he went for the ball when he quite clearly didn't even receive a yellow card from a Dutch referee actually, and was able to play on, and Germany went on to reach the final. And it's just an absolutely terrible foul. One of the worst I've ever seen on a football pitch, even though it was before my time. But for those that haven't seen it, it's a timely reminder of how not to conduct yourself on a football pitch.
Yeah, I think even though it's an old school, I'm fully with you on that. I remember watching that in the clubhouse of St. Bridget's in Blanchetown. We came in from training, and I walked. I was only 8, something like that, or 9. Walked in and saw it. I went, what? He didn't even get sent off. And everybody was in shock. All these grown men were who were tough men who liked GAA, but they were like, even that's too much for them. So yeah, that's moving up for me. Okay, Double N, what have you got for us for capital punishment tonight? If Double N is there.
Well, I wasn't prepared for this one this week, so I think I'll just go on and punish my own enemy or sort of some bad entity. So it's gonna be these mobile operators which don't provide us with a good internet connection, at least to do this Capital Sports show.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna do a sporting one. Just a few hours after he posted up a video on social media saying, people, be sensible, stay home, hashtag stay home, social distancing, blah, 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 blah. The ex-Irish Youth International, Jack Grealish, went out, driving his car, drunk, and crashed. So that was on the 30th of March. Whatever else, I mean, Jack Grealish, he chose to play for England. Fair play to him, good on him. But doing that was a bit too much. So I would do it that, but at the same time, I'm looking. John Jones, of course, did the same thing, but I'm very much on Alex's side. And of course, Andrew Flint, as I mentioned, Billy Joe Saunders, I saw that. I think it's more than just punches to the head. I think he needs a kick in the, well, I'd say ass, but I can't say ass. But anyway.
Having said it twice.
I haven't said it, so I'd give him a kick. So, Alex B, you win.
Yeah.
You win tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Listen, folks, before we go, Alex, we're still focusing you at the moment. You're still in shot. What advice would you give to people right now? How to sort of like stay sane? Because you've been locked up longer than the rest of us, almost as long as Peter P.
I would suggest it's not really the best thing to do, but this is what I do. Just sort of try to lose track of time. It just blends in. Everything just becomes like one very long day. You know, like I eventually started dreaming of being in my own house and waking up and being in that same very own house.
No.
Right. Well, obviously, like out of the good stuff, you know, try to get a walk in where you can, and if that's still possible, you know, try to get some exercise, because this is not good for the mind or the body. It's pretty. I don't know. You'll see very soon. You'll see very soon that I can guarantee you.
Okay.
And when it comes, you better be ready. You don't want what happened to John Jones or Billy Joe Saunders to happen to you.
No.
Just make sure to stay sane. Right.
That is true. Double N, apart from getting better Wi-Fi, what advice do you have for people to try and keep their sanity?
Yeah, like you should, like the statistics shows that more people are spending more time on sleeping in Moscow, at least. So I think we should like take advantage of so many sources which are free nowadays, like taking tours in some museums or taking free courses. I don't know, there are plenty of good things out there. So go research, find yourself some good stuff to spend your time, not just sleep.
Okay, that's fair enough. James, you've been locked up for a while as well, a couple of weeks already. Holland. What would you advise people to do to pass the time?
Well, I think exercise is important, to go out and get at least a little bit of exercise every day. If you have time for your passions, some people often say they don't have a lot of time. In this case, we have time. I must say, in my own experience with interviews with professional players and managers, I've been actually very busy. I've been actually very busy with telephone interviews with this week with the likes of manager of Cork City, Neil Fenn, and Shelbourne manager Ian Morris. Some of you may have read my recent publication with former St Petersburg player Michael Lum. So even in these difficult times, I'm managing to keep busy with the football interviews, and it's all about keep producing quality, really.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough. And yeah, actually, the recent one, was very, very good. It'll be tweeted out today by Double N. So good job.
Thank you very much. I thought really interesting is, especially his time at St Petersburg, to speak very highly of Luciano Spalletti and also very highly of St Petersburg as a city. And he said himself, you know, that he was brought for like 15 million Danish kroner. And then, which he thought was a lot of money, and then he realised that the likes of Hulk and Danny have also been brought, and they're now his teammates. And he was saying that he didn't realise that St Petersburg were as big a club as what they actually were, and he lauded Luciano Spalletti for his for winning two Russian titles in 3 seasons. Sometimes having a few fights with the players, but being highly intelligent, and he really enjoyed his spell in Russia.
Yeah, I mean, most people do. Well, I mean, a lot of them do, and it was, again, very, very good piece to have a browse through. Andrew, what would you advise people to do to keep sane, to keep their wits together?
Well, I mean, common consensus seems to be that the world is completely different, and I don't really see it that way. It's just simply moving online. I mean, you know, I speak to my parents every day, so I would strongly suggest keeping communication going. And it's not easy for everybody to simply work online, but, you know, keep in contact online. I'm playing word games to keep my brain ticking over. And actually, even if complete lockdown comes, I have a plan. I'm not known for my constant activity and fitness regime, but my plan is to simply use the stairwell. Honestly, run up to the 10th floor and down again 3, 4, 5 times, do a bit of, well, it will be some sort of training. It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
So instead of pretending the world's completely changed, pretend it hasn't.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
Well, I think it's a nice way to look at it. I mean, yesterday, I think boredom got hold of some people in our student body, where basically a lot of our students are kind of on lockdown in the dormitories. The university's looking after and getting them 3 meals a day. I can take care of very, very well now, in fairness. They're all saying that. But then somebody posted a thing that then went viral very, very quickly. And I was getting calls from first thing in the morning and messages and panicked students that now that meals are reduced, they only get 1 meal a day. They're not allowed out to the shops, and that's it. And I'm getting calls from students. I'm going, what? So I'm kind of a bit wary of calling my bosses to say, this can't be right. And then all of a sudden I just looked at the date. It was the 1st of April. And it was the worst April Fool's joke I have ever seen. Because seriously, there were kids there who were going, but we'll starve. We're only getting 1 meal a day. And of course, once that starts, it sets a ripple effect. It ended up that I had to be phoning, so it was best 20 to 25 students, phoning them personally, as well as messaging another 20, 25 to say, calm everybody down, this is a load of nonsense. But, now in hindsight, it's very funny, but at the time, it was just...
I mean, any other date than the 1st of April, I'd say, honestly, that's the kind of thing I would say. Not that exact joke, but joking, keeping humour going, because we're still, I mean, it is a crisis, but there's no point everybody just giving up all communication, all hope. I mean, it's not the end of the world as long as we keep our heads, basically.
That is true. Well, folks, listen, we'll come to the end of it as Club Bruges are crowned the champions of Belgium, and Wimbledon's called off. That we were a great innovation from the NHL players to basically have a knockout tournament. We're looking forward to Saturday's Tajikistan Supercup final, and in the meantime, I'll say bye-bye to Holland, to James Rowe. James, thank you for joining us.
You're more than welcome. Keep safe, everybody, and stay healthy, and we'll speak again soon.
And to Alex B over in Ontario, Toronto. Alex, you stay safe, stay sane, and stay healthy.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
To Double N at the other end of Moscow. Double N, you take care, and I hope you get your Wi-Fi sorted out. And Double N is gone.
Thank you, Alan.
All right.
Stay safe and stay connected.
And to Andrew out in T-Man. Andrew, take care, and we'll talk to you in the next couple of days.
I will do with my Jägermeister. I'll be fine.
Thank you. Okay, folks, that's it for now. This is going to go up on our social media. So, again, thanks everybody for that. And we will talk to you all very, very soon with the next Campus 2.0 and another more. Take care and look after each other.